and I'd learned that. And it's one of the hardest things for me in learning lines is that I can learn it all I want, but by the morning there'll be some I dreamed or dreamt, and some that I thought of over breakfast. And by the time I get to the set, there's 10 new ideas or 15 new ideas. 3 to 5 of them are going to get in the movie. Sometimes into my field of vision, I use them.
There's a lot of ancient techniques which people use in remembering things and exploring their memory. And American actor Jim Carrey reveals few of them. Today we are going to reveal the secrets of some memory champions and show you how to remember every detail of every moment of your life. Sounds impossible, right? Well, not really. There are some amazing techniques that you can use to boost your memory and recall anything you want. And I'm not talking about some boring flashcards or rote memorization. I'm talking about fun, creative, and effective ways to make your memory stick for a lifetime. So, without further ado, let's get started. First of all, how do you remember things? Do you just see or hear something and then it's stored in your brain forever? Or maybe you write it down in a book or diary? Well, not exactly. Memory is a complex process that involves 3 stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Encoding is when you take in information from your senses and transform it into a form that your brain can process. Storage is when you keep that information in your brain for later use. And retrieval is when you access that information when you need it. Sounds simple, right? Well, not really. There are many factors that can affect each stage of memory, such as attention, motivation, emotion, interference, and decay. And there are different types of memory, such as short-term memory and long-term memory. Short-term memory, also known as working memory, is the memory that you use to hold information in your mind for a few seconds or minutes, such as a phone number or a grocery list. It has a limited capacity, usually about 7+ or -2 items, and it can be easily lost or forgotten if you don't pay attention or repeat it. According to psychologist George Miller, the average person can hold about 7 items in their short-term memory, plus or -2. For example, if I ask you to remember the following numbers: 3, 7, 9, 4, 2, 6, 8, you might be able to repeat them back to me. But if I add one more number, like 5, you might forget some of the previous ones. Long-term memory, on the other hand, is the memory that you use to store information for a long time, such as facts, events, skills, or experiences. It has a virtually unlimited capacity, and it can last for days, months, years, or even a lifetime. However, it can also be affected by distortion, bias, or forgetting. So, how can you improve your memory and remember every detail of every moment of your life? Well, there are 2 main strategies that I'm going to teach you today: mnemonic devices and spaced repetition. Mnemonic devices are techniques that help you encode and retrieve information by making it more meaningful, memorable, or organized. For example, you can use acronyms, rhymes, songs, images, stories, or associations to remember things. Spaced repetition is a technique that helps you store and retain information by reviewing it at optimal intervals, based on how well you remember it. For example, you can use flashcards, apps, or calendars to schedule your reviews and avoid forgetting. Let me give you some examples of how these strategies work. Suppose you want to remember the names of the planets in the solar system in order from the sun. You could use a mnemonic device, such as a sentence, to encode and retrieve the information. For example, you could use the sentence, "My very eager mother just served us noodles," to remember Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Or you could use an image, such as a picture of a pizza, to remember the same thing. For example, you could imagine that the pizza has 8 slices, each with a different topping that represents a planet. For example, Mercury could be cheese, Venus could be tomato, Earth could be pepperoni, and so on. Or you could use a story, such as a fantasy tale, to remember the same thing. For example, you could imagine that you are a space explorer who visits each planet and has a different adventure on each one, and so on. Now, let me tell you a story about someone who used mnemonic devices to improve his memory and achieve his goals. His name is Dominic O'Brien, and he is a British memory champion and author. He has won the World Memory Championships 8 times, and he holds several world records for memory feats, such as memorizing 54 decks of cards in sequence, or memorizing the order of 2,808 random digits in an hour. But Dominic was not born with a super memory. In fact, he used to have a very poor memory. He struggled with dyslexia and had trouble remembering names, dates, and facts. He was also very shy and insecure. He wanted to change his life, but he didn't know how. One day, he saw a man on TV who could memorize a deck of cards in less than a minute. He was amazed and curious. He decided to buy the man's book and learn his techniques. He discovered that the man was using a mnemonic device called the memory palace, which is a technique that dates back to ancient Greece. It is a method of remembering information by placing it in a mental location that you are familiar with, such as your house, your school, or your city. For example, if you want to remember a list of items, you can imagine walking through your house and seeing each item in a different room or location. Then, when you want to recall the list, you just have to mentally retrace your steps and see what you placed where. Dominic started to practice this technique every day. He created his own memory palaces and filled them with images, sounds, smells, and emotions. He also learned other mnemonic devices, such as the major system, which is a method of remembering numbers by converting them into words that sound like them. For example, the number 1 can be represented by the sound T or D, the number 2 can be represented by the sound N, the number 3 can be represented by the sound M, and so on. Then, you can use these words to form sentences or stories that help you remember the numbers. For example, if you want to remember the number 1, 2, 3, you can use the words 10 and me and create the sentence 10 men met me. Dominic was amazed by the results. He found that he could remember anything he wanted, from names and faces, to dates and facts, to cards and numbers. He also found that his confidence and self-esteem improved. He started to enter memory competitions and win them. He became famous and respected. He wrote books and gave speeches. He changed his life, and you can do the same. You can use mnemonic devices to improve your memory and achieve your goals. Whether you want to ace an exam, give a presentation, learn a language, or just impress your friends, mnemonic devices can help you. All you need is a little imagination and practice. But mnemonic devices are not enough. There is another strategy that you need to use to remember every detail of every moment of your life, and that is spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is a technique that helps you remember information by reviewing it at optimal intervals. For example, if you learn something new today, you should review it tomorrow, then in a week, then in a month, then in 6 months, and so on. This way, you will reinforce the information in your long-term memory and prevent it from fading away. Spaced repetition works because it takes advantage of the forgetting curve, which is a graph that shows how quickly we forget information over time. The forgetting curve shows that we forget most of what we learn within the first 24 hours, unless we review it. But if we review it, the curve becomes less steep, and we retain more of the information. And if we review it again, the curve becomes even less steep, and we retain even more of the information, and so on. Spaced repetition is one of the most effective and efficient ways to learn and remember anything. It saves you time and energy, and it ensures that you don't forget what you learn. You can use spaced repetition to review anything you want, such as vocabulary, formulas, concepts, or facts. You can use tools like Anki, which is a flashcard app that uses spaced repetition algorithms to help you review your material at the right time. Now, let me tell you a story about someone who used spaced repetition to improve his memory and achieve his goals. His name is Gabriel Weiner, and he is an American author and opera singer. He speaks 6 languages fluently, and he has learned several more. But Gabriel was not always a language lover. In fact, he used to hate learning languages. He had to study French and German in school, but he found them boring and difficult. He couldn't remember the words, the grammar, or the pronunciation. He thought he was bad at languages and gave up on them. But then he discovered his passion for opera singing. He wanted to pursue a career as an opera singer, but he realized that he needed to learn the languages of the operas he wanted to sing, such as Italian, German, and French. He decided to give language learning another try, but this time he used a different approach. He discovered that the traditional methods of learning languages, such as textbooks, classes, and tests, were not very effective or enjoyable. He decided to use more fun and natural methods such as listening to music, watching movies, reading books, and talking to native speakers. He also decided to use spaced repetition to review the words and phrases he learned. He used Anki to create his own flashcards, and he reviewed them every day. He also used mnemonic devices to help him remember the words and phrases better. He created images, stories, and associations that made the words and phrases more memorable and meaningful. Gabriel was amazed by the results. He found that he could learn languages faster and easier than ever before. He also found that he enjoyed learning languages and that they enriched his life. He was able to sing operas in different languages and communicate with people from different cultures. He became famous and respected. He wrote books and gave speeches. He changed his life. And you can do the same. You can use spaced repetition to improve your memory and achieve your goals. Whether you want to learn a language, a skill, a subject, or anything else, spaced repetition can help you. All you need is a little discipline and consistency. So, what can we learn from the above story? Well, we can learn that memory is not a fixed trait that you are born with. It is a skill that you can improve with practice and technique. We can also learn that memory is not just a tool for remembering facts and figures. It is a tool for enriching your life and expanding your horizons. And we can learn that memory is not just a matter of intelligence. It is a matter of imagination. Before we continue with the video, I will appreciate if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It helps us create better educative videos for you. And if you want to learn more about psychology and how to apply it to your life, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of my future videos. You can always drop your questions and feedbacks on the comment section. I'll do well to reply. Thanks. I would like to add a little disclaimer too. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical or professional advice. We're here to educate and share proven strategies. I am not responsible for any misuse of any information in this video. So with that being said, what's the key takeaway of this video? You can improve your memory and remember every detail of every moment of your life by using mnemonic devices and spaced repetition. These are techniques that help you encode, store, and retrieve information by making it more meaningful, memorable, or organized. They can also help you learn new things, such as languages, music, or art. Memory is not a fixed trait that you are born with. It is a skill that you can improve with practice and technique. Memory is not just a tool for remembering facts and figures. It is a tool for enriching your life and expanding your horizons. Memory is not just a matter of intelligence. It is a matter of imagination. And remember, you are special. Peace out.